Hello and welcome back to the When You're Podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're watching the Twilight Saga. Now, the Twilight Saga is a series of books created by Stephenie Meyers, and it stars Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner. And there's a whole bunch of ensemble characters, but you know, you can kind of you can Google that for yourself. The main three that are important are Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner for this whole series. These guys are the main people. So, let me start off by saying that I thought it was so funny to watch these movies because I was never into it growing up. Like when the first movie came out, I was like 7, 8 years old. And I wasn't really into the whole vampire. I didn't read the books. I didn't really care. You know, I was just a kid. I was just doing what normal kids do. I didn't have any real connection to it, but a bunch of other people did. So that's what drove this whole thing. So rewatching it, or kind of like watching it in its entirety, you know, I kind of already knew the whole story. I kind of knew the whole like Team Edward, Team Jacob debate stuff, but you know, it doesn't really matter. Like that didn't bother me. I was just kind of like, oh, they're vampires, whatever, who cares, you know, cool. Do your thing. So the first movie, Twilight, I mean, what a story. What a perfect way to open the whole thing. It was really a style choice, really. It was so fun to see the blue hue, you know, the kind of like the tone of it was really fun. It was cool. It was different, you know, and it's very rare you see something like that done. Something with like a specific style choice like that. And I feel like the theme of it really fit. I thought it was really, really cool. And I liked it a lot. I have to say, the first one's probably my favorite. Out of all of them, like, I feel like the introduction of the characters, the kind of like connection you build, you understand this world and like how everything gets put together. It's all brand new. It's all fresh. And then later on in the series, it just kind of feels like extra additives that don't really hold. You know, it just feels very weird later on. So the first movie, I have to say, the whole vampires in high school thing is really funny to me. I mean, when Bella first sees Robert Pattinson, like, you know the moment, you know the scene, and you're just like, ooh, you know, you just kind of get that like, oh, here comes the hot vampire guy who's single, but like doesn't want to do anything with anybody, you know? And all the girls like try to get after him, but he's just like, nah, fam. And then this one girl shows up from, I think it was Arizona, or was it? I think it was Arizona. I think that's where she was coming from. And then she was just like, listen, let's be together or whatever, you know? And then the car almost crashes into her, and then Edward saves her, and that's another part of this whole movie, is that like, he doesn't want her to know. Like, she can't know. If she knows, then everything gets, you know, everything's in jeopardy, you know, according to the vampire laws. And so there's this very specific scene where he like is trying to gaslight her. It's so funny to me. It's hilarious. Where he's just like, what are you talking about? You know, I was standing right next to you. And she was like, what? No, you were all the way across the parking lot. I saw you over there. And then you just like ran over to me so quick and you stopped the truck. You pushed it away. And you're just like, nobody is going to believe you, Bella. And then he saves her yet again from these from these guys who are trying to like, who knows what they were going to do, you know what I mean? You can name every dirty word in the book, but those guys were not, they didn't have good intentions. And then Edward pulls up in his whip and he just zooms over to her and he's just like, yo, what's good, Bella? Get inside the car, do what I say. And then he stares them down. I was hoping for him to beat them all up. That would have been cool. But instead he just stares them down really creepily and they drive away and he's just like, I could read your thoughts, or I could read their thoughts. They weren't good people. They're disgusting. They're scum. And then slowly and surely, he reveals himself to be a vampire, him in the sunlight, why he lives in low light, stuff like that. And I thought it was really funny. the whole time I'm just like, what's with all the sexual tension? That's all these movies are. It's sexual tension, and nobody cares. Nobody wants it. You know what I mean? Just get it on. Go, you know? And so there's another moment in the movie where he's like in her bedroom and he's just like, I came in through the window, and she was just like, do you do that a lot? And he's like, yeah, only for like the last couple of months. I'm like, yo, this guy is crazy. I don't know. Dude, this whole series of movies takes place within like 1 year. Like how much, you know, it takes like more than that for me to really develop a true relationship with someone, to really develop trust, let alone love and marriage and everything. So in the end, you know, Edward is in love with Bella. Bella's in love with him, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the movie, they kill some guy who was trying to kill Bella, and he was like in love with some other girl. I think, I forget her name. I think it was Victoria or, yeah, something like that. She was redhead girl. And then she just like wants vengeance. You know, that's what this whole thing is about. So then the second movie, they focus on Jacob. Your boy Taylor Lautner shows up, and he starts spending more and more time with Bella after she gets dumped, after Edward leaves. He runs away. He's just kind of like, I can't be with you, Bella. I'm a vampire. You're a human. It's unnatural. You'll never be safe if I'm with you. I am going to run away and leave you. But then he kind of like astral projects himself to like keep her out of danger, to like be protective of her, to keep her safe and whatnot. And Taylor Lautner is just like fixing this bike with her. And that's how they create this bond, or so to speak. They don't show it. I don't feel the connection between Bella and Jacob. I just kind of feel like, who cares? Like, you know, you obviously want to bone Edward. You definitely want that vampire stuff, that vampire D. That's all you want. You don't want Jacob. And there were so many moments where it was like, you feel like they're about to kiss, but they don't. And you're just like, oh, this is such a, again, the sexual, it's just increasing it to no end, you know, when there's no need for it. So anyways, Bella gets into some trouble. Bella is getting hunted by redheaded girl. And so, long story short, Jacob falls in love with Bella, right? He's just like, yo, Bella, like, I want to be with you. And I'm, you know, not a vampire. I'm actually this crazy, cool werewolf. You know, I can transform into this wolf guy. So I'm actually a better fit for you. That's what his whole thing is that, like, I'm a human. Like, I'm flesh and blood. I'm warm, you know? I'm not dead. I'm not cold-blooded. I'm not, you know, I can provide a life for you. That's his whole thing. And he just, like, convinces her that she's in love with him. Like, this whole, you don't feel the connection between them, but he's just like, I know you love me. And it's just like, where was this? Was it during fixing the bike? No. Was it during the one scene that you guys had where you guys were just, like, staring at each other? No. Was it when you cut your hair? No. So what is with this whole, was it when you took your shirt off in the rain and it's just like, there was no reason for it. So I thought it was very, I didn't feel it. You know, I didn't feel it. So eventually, Bella gets into some sort of trouble. She's like, she gets hurt, essentially, I think. Or she's made to believe, well, Edward wants to protect her. All right, let's get this out of the way. Edward wants to protect her. He doesn't want her to die. He wants her to be safe. That's why he went away. When Jacob kind of spills the beans to Edward that Bella might be dead. He doesn't tell him he's dead, she's dead, but he says that, like, yeah, you know, she's kind of like gone, or like, you know, she's really hurt badly or whatever. Then he's kind of like, Edward's like, no, my Bella, she's dead. You know, they do like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. And Edward is going to present himself to the people, to the public. So that way the Volturi, which is kind of like this vampire court, this vampire government that like dictates all the rules. And they're just like, if you show yourself or you proclaim to be a vampire in front of these people and break the code, we kill you. you know? Other than that, you can't, you don't die. So he's just like, Bella's dead. I want to reveal myself. I'm going to die. So Bella goes all the way to Italy to where Edward is, and she tries to stop him. She's like racing towards him, and she's like, stop, I'm alive, I'm alive. And he's like, Bella, you're alive. Oh my gosh. Never mind, I don't want to die. And instead they're just like, listen, we're going to have to kill you. And they're just like, what? What? Why? You know? And then Bella's like, I'm going to become a vampire. This is fact. I'm going to become a vampire, people. And the Volturi is like, yeah, right. You don't have the heart. You'll die, You can't make it. So then one of the other vampires, she can see into the future. That's her power. And she kind of tells them like, yeah, I saw it. Yeah, she's going to become a vampire. And they're like, all right, well, we'll be waiting. So there's Victoria and there's the Volturi. So there are two different things, right? Victoria's on her own. She's after vengeance. She wants to kill Edward for killing her boyfriend or love, her true love or whatever, by killing Bella, right? And then the Volturi want Bella to turn into a vampire. And if she doesn't, when, in the future, then they're going to kill Edward or something like that. Now we get into Eclipse, and this is where things get tense. This is where the true heart of Bella is won. So during Eclipse, Victoria comes back, and it's played by a completely different actress, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. When the other two movies, it was played by some other girl. So it was like, there was really no need for it. I don't know why they changed the actress, but it is what it is. So Victoria starts feeding. She starts hunting. She starts getting some new blood vampires. Sorry, newborn vampires, not new blood. Newborn vampires, meaning they're at their strongest when they're just transformed because they still have some of their human blood in them, or they hunt a lot better. So she's making this army to kill Edward, to kill Bella. She wants to hunt Bella in revenge, and she seduces the main guy into doing anything she wants, but she doesn't really love him. She doesn't really care. So the whole movie is just kind of like this tense back and forth, like Edward is like proposing to Bella. He's like, I love you, and we should be married and stuff. And Bella's just like, I want to be a vampire. And Edward is like, okay, I'll turn you into a vampire if you meet some conditions, all right? You gotta try to be human and stuff, and you gotta marry me, all right? Those are the terms. Those are the conditions. And she's like, okay, I'll marry you. And then Jacob's like, what? You're marrying this guy? I'm a human being. I'm flesh and blood. I can, I have warmth. You love me, Bella. And she's just like, yeah, but I love Edward more, and there's this back and forth. So as things tense up, Victoria's coming after them, and there's going to be like a werewolf, vampire versus vampire thing to like kill them all. So Bella has to go into retreat. So she goes to the top of this mountain, and it's really cold. It's really cold at night. And there's this one particular tent scene where it's just Bella, Edward, and Jacob. And Jacob is like, I have to warm Bella because my body is warm and you're cold, Edward, and she'll freeze to death. So he like takes off his shirt, he does whatever, or whatever, something like that. And he snuggles with her. He's like holding her in his arms. And he's like, I love her more than you, Edward. And Edward is like, yeah, but she chose me. She loves me, and I love her too. And he's just like, she would actually have a better life with me, right? And Edward is like, I know she would, but she loves me and I love her. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And Jacob is just like, I'm hotter than you, Edward. And Edward is like, huh. Dude, I swear that tent scene was so funny and so good. And it was just like all of the romance, all of the love conflict, all of the build up to that one moment. It just felt like, it felt a little unflattering. It didn't feel fully resolved. I feel like there could have been better dialogue there. I feel like there definitely was something missing, and it was very funny, very laughable. I can't sit here and say that this was most brilliant filmmaking, the most brilliant writing. It was just, I couldn't keep a straight face watching it. I mean, most of the series, I couldn't keep a straight face. I was just laughing so much. I kept making jokes. It was so silly to me. So, long story short, Victoria tries to kill him. Edward kills Victoria. And then everything's all good. They're free. Then comes the next thing, right? You're like, yay, everything's all right now. Now, it's now again the rivalry for Bella's heart, right? So Breaking Dawn, that's the next one, part 1, or just whatever, right? This is when, dude, this movie is just, there's no action in it that I can really recall, right? It's just straight up sex and a bunch of other crazy stuff. So the movie starts out with Bella getting married to Edward, and Jacob is like, ugh, I love this woman, but, she chose this other guy, and I didn't imprint on her, and I just feel so lonely. I feel so without woman. And then Bella marries Edward. They do this whole ceremony. Jacob shows up, and he's just like, let's dance. And she's like, we're going to have a honeymoon. And he's going to be like, yeah, well, it's not going to be regular, is it? And she's like, well, it's going to be like everybody else's. And he's like, that's sick. That is disgusting. Are you not ashamed of yourself? That is very embarrassing. And so she was kind of like, listen, it's none of your business. And he just like gets all angry. He's like, no, you can't. He will destroy you. They're talking about sex here. She can't be with him because he's going to lose himself during intercourse, and he's going to like try to kill her and stuff. So he's going to smash her to death. That's what this whole movie, this whole series is about. They can't be together because he will smash her to death. And that is so it's so funny, but so clever. It's like, you never would have thought of that for vampires. So anyways, they go on this honeymoon. They go to this faraway island that Carlisle owns. And he just like gives it to them. And they do it, dude. She doesn't get destroyed. She lives a good life. And she's just like, it feels so good. And it's like, you have nothing to compare it to, Bella. As far as it's whatever. And before you know it, the craziest thing happens. Bella gets pregnant. That's right. This movie is going on to talk about a demonic baby. This movie is great. This is probably my second favorite movie of all of them. All right? This Twilight's first, and then it's Breaking Dawn. And then it'll be Eclipse, New Moon, and then the Breaking Dawn Part 2. All right? That'll probably be the order I put it in. So she's like 2 weeks late on her period or whatever. And she's like, I can feel the baby inside of me. And she's like, whoa, 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 And they're going all around and they're being like, is this even possible? Can this happen? I didn't wear protection. How was I supposed to know my vampire seed was going to work? It's never supposed to happen. So then she gets pregnant. She gets pregnant fast, like in a super, super rapid amount of time. So she gets pregnant and she's like losing her life. She's, the blood is being sucked from her to feed this baby. She's not doing well. She's dying. And Jacob finds out, and everything is just kind of like all over the place, They're trying to figure out how to help Bella, how to make the pregnancy, work. And in the end, this is what happens, right? In the end of the movie, Bella starts like drinking blood. She has to drink blood in order to feed the baby, and it like keeps her strong enough to take care of it. But she ends up breaking her back, breaking her knees. And you wouldn't believe that. I mean, it is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. She has the baby, but Edward eats the baby out of her, and Bella dies, and he transforms her into a vampire. And I kid you not, the baby is out, and then at the end of the movie, Bella's a vampire. Bella's a vampire in the end. Bella has transformed into a vampire. Like, her eyes open up, and it's the coolest thing, right? Now it's implied that, like, she's a vampire now. She's awake. She's survived. All in all, it goes to the final movie. And the final movie is mainly about the Volturi, right? The Volturi can't have a child vampire. They think that they've taken a child and turned her into an immortal child, into an immortal vampire. But that hasn't happened. What's actually happened is she had a natural pregnancy when she was a human, and then she transformed into a vampire. But the Volturi don't know this, and nobody believes it. So the Cullens all gather together. They're like, we're going to gather everybody around. We're all going to come together right now. And that's when they go like, we're going to stand up to the Volturi, and we're going to tell them the truth. The truth is that Bella had a natural pregnancy that nobody thought would ever happen, and they're going to have to accept it. And if not, we'll fight to the death. So the movie's just them going from place to place, relative to relative, and they're going like, listen, we need your help. We need to talk to the Volturi and tell them the truth, that this kid is not, we did not turn her into a vampire. Instead, she was born and she's a natural vampire, half human, half vampire breed. And she's the only one. And eventually, you know, originally, Jacob's tribe, or, you know, the werewolf group, they wanted to kill the baby, because if they don't kill the baby, the Volturi will come after them. It'll break all the laws, the natural laws that they have, right? So they were going to kill her, but Jacob imprints on her. And basically, imprinting is like when you connect with someone so deeply and so full of love that you're bonded for life, essentially. You know, you're together forever. So he imprints on the baby, and once a werewolf imprints on somebody, the werewolves can no longer attack it. So that's how the baby stays safe from the werewolves, from all of the, you know, just the wolves in general, right? So she survives, and that's why the vampires and the werewolves come together, is because Jacob's in love with the baby of Bella and Edward, and Edward and Bella wanted to protect their baby from the Volturi. So eventually, it all comes to a final clash between the Volturi and the Cullens. You know, what is the truth? And the truth is, the Cullens are right, you know? They're just a regular family. It's a baby, you know? Let them live in peace. And the Volturi are like, impossible, we do not believe you. So they come together and they've realized the truth. And they're like, yeah, we could leave right now, but we still want to fight. So what ends up happening is they go like, let's fight. So they get into this huge clash, this huge collision, and people die, people get hurt, and it's just this whole thing, you know, and it, all in all, they do this big fight. But actually, it's just it's not a real fight. It's just imaginary. It's a flash of the future if they want to attack them. They go like, if you attack us, you will die. So this whole time you're watching this fight and you think like, oh, this is so cool. Like, people are fighting, there's death, there's consequences, there's sacrifice. But actually, none of that is real. Everything lives happily ever after. The Volturi walk away and nothing ever happens. And you're just like, what is going on? And then it's implied that Jacob will end up with Renesmee, which is the baby's name, and Edward and Jacob live forever, and they're one happy family. And then you have the ending song, darling, I went waiting for you. You know, end of the movie, end of the whole saga. And I have to say, as far as like, I mean, these are really, really hilarious. I don't know how anybody can really, you know, even back then, how anybody could take this movie seriously. It's so funny. And even the actors and the actresses, on like some of the interviews I watched, they're just kind of like, yeah, you know, they try to take it seriously. They don't, you know, it's really, really funny. And, oh, and Jacob, because he imprints on the daughter, he nicknames her name's Renesmee, so he calls her Nessie, the Ness. And then Kristen Stewart, Bella, she's just like, you nickname my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster? And she starts beating up Jacob, and you're just like, what is this dialogue? What is this scene? So, all in all, the Twilight Saga is really good. When you're watching it, I recommend watching it with your friends. I recommend having a big group gathering, and you just binge watch them all, and you just have fun. You laugh at it, you know? Get a couple of the books by your side and try to like follow along, or maybe the script or whatnot. get like Team Jacob, Team Edward shirts. I don't know, just make a whole deal out of it because it's so funny. It's really like it's one of those movies where you're just kind of like baffled that this got made. But other than that, when you're watching the Twilight Saga, you just have to get into the story and have fun, and that's all it is. And that's how I went into it, you know? And it definitely fits the horror genre with the vampires and the tone, especially the first one. And then they kind of make everything else fit. I remember in the beginning of Eclipse, it was a lot more horror because he gets bitten by Victoria and stuff. So, yeah, it definitely fits. And it's definitely a good it's definitely binge-worthy. And it's definitely, I watched it every single day. You know, one day it was Twilight, then the next day was New Moon, Eclipse, so on and so forth. So overall, great movie, fun times, and go watch it for yourself, you know. If you haven't watched it, it'll give you a good laugh. If you have already watched it and you're a diehard fan of it, then don't take anything I say so seriously or whatever. Have fun, and yeah, I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I'll see you guys all next time.